You have but scraped just the mere surface of a world that used to dance beyond your fingertips, young Padawan. So prime your brains and clean your ears. We are going to take you on a journey of a lifetime. We present to you Season 2 of ThinkALoud. Be prepared to question the basis of your life, the basis of all life, and your existence and the world's existence, the greater good and the lesser evil. We tend not to leave any stone unturned, to allow you to question yourself and your ideals, then rectify them if necessary, and fortify your beliefs in them using sound logic. For this, we demand you be flexible and adaptable in order to not stagnate. Hey, I'm Keshav, the host for this episode, and I am the atheist.
Hello, my name is Ram. I'm the agnostic.
Hi, I'm Sabya and I'm the shaman.
Hey, I'm Arya and I'm the God Hand.
Sup, I'm Diva, the nihilist who thinks that Sabya desperately needs a new hobby.
So let's talk about why the debate about God is important. 85% of the world believes in God or a higher entity. And when we explore the meaning of life, God is important. Religion, founded on the basis of what its followers should do and not do, set up a system of guidelines that are followed by majority throughout their entire lives. God, as a supreme authoritative figure, gave meaning to the existence of this majority. And this makes the debate about God so important.
Well, if you're actually even thinking about the importance of God to this debate, God, even as an idea, it permeates throughout the whole of human civilization. So there are so many statements, and all of those statements, whenever there is a statement which embodies belief in any way or a strong emotion in any way, it is always connected to God. If you see, belief is such an important part in the human experience, and God is the ultimate embodiment of the idea of belief and faith. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely.
We can agree on the fact that this debate is important. Now, as an atheist, I'll say this: whenever I am debating with anyone about God, the definition of God is something which just flies around, and you're not able to really corner anything down because the definition can change around so easily. We should corner down an episode on a definition that we can all agree with for this episode. Yeah, cool with that.
Yeah, of course.
So what I was thinking, because we want a God who will help us in our quest for meaning, because season 2 is all about searching for meaning, right? What is the meaning of life? Well, so a God that would give us meaning is first of all a God who is personal to us in a way. So a God that has set down some rules for what is moral and immoral, and who actively wants us to do something and they abstain from doing something. And if we do something positive, or if we have a net positive karmic account or whatever, then we get to go to heaven. And if we don't have that, then we have to face some consequences, such as rebirth or death or whatever. So there is some whole huge system he has put in place for humans to act in a certain way and live by his guidelines, right? And he has a plan for everyone.
Right.
So this is the kind of definition that we're looking for: a personal God. This God might be a conscious entity, it might be just a spirit or a universal energy, whatever. That is not something which we're really debating about. It's just a God which provides meaning to humans by being interested in their personal lives. So I think without any delay,
So basically, the entire biological world believes, the entire cell theory believes that life comes from pre-existing lives. Life cannot combust without like extreme circumstance, like 1 in a billion chance that life can be created without anything else. But other than that, life comes from life.
this proves
Okay.
that God exists because God has created life. Is that what you want to say?
No, I'm saying it the other way around, that God doesn't exist and God did not create us and life comes from pre-existing life.
So what created a pre-existing life?
1 in a trillion chance.
See, because what you're speaking about here, it sounds a lot about like this the argument of creation of pre-life and something like that. And the thing is that the existence of pre-life, the one chance in one of a million, sounds too much like a miracle. And personally, I don't believe in miracles. So, if you've heard about this,
Miracle, it's probability.
well, yeah, but one chance in a trillion is also considered to be a miracle as well, right? So, there was this experiment that was carried out in 1953 by Stanley Miller and Harold Urey. So, what they did was there was this brilliant scientist called Open and Haldane. So, they had this idea that organic molecules could spontaneously be produced under reducing conditions. So now it is considered and it is thought that in the earlier times, the early Earth had this reducing condition. So the entire atmosphere was reducing in nature. So what Miller and Urey did was that they built a closed system with like a heated pool of water and a mixture of gases that were thought to be abundant in the atmosphere of the early Earth. That is water, ammonia, methane, and hydrogen. And to simulate the lightning, they provided spark energy from electrodes, and with that and very high temperatures, they managed to create the first biological molecules right in that entire setup. So they made various types of amino acids, sugars, lipids, and other organic molecules. So this kind of proves that even without pre-existing life, there was something scientific that built it up
Right.
from there. Yes.
Exactly. And when you think about Earth, Earth is nothing but a planet which is covered 3/4 by water. Like a beaker filled with multiple chemicals in the perfect conditions for mixing and interacting with each other. Plus, Earth had rain and it had lightning and everything. That created the lightning discharges themselves, provided energy to the chemicals for reactions to take place, and so on. And then when we talk about the thermo vents underground that had released lava, heat, and sulfur, and a lot of other phosphates, they of course gave a lot of endothermic reactions, the energy they required to react.
Exactly.
As well.
So the thing is that even with all of this, I find it hard to believe that something known as God does not exist, because even though I do not believe in miracles, and even though I feel that the entire life came from no pre-existing life, that it came from simple inorganic basis, I still believe that due to the perfection over here, I'll speak about the Goldilocks zone over here. So it's basically a narrow range where the life-supporting planets are called to set to exist around a sun. So it's basically neither too hot nor too cold. So the fact that Earth was present right over there, and the fact that, as Malhar said just a while ago, about the 1 in a trillion chance of Earth being perfectly made just to ensure that that any kind of life begins. I find that every single thing, that distance of Earth from the sun, to be perfectly tuned and perfectly tailored just so that life could exist. It's not only that, but the universe itself. Now we all know that universe is constantly expanding, right? So even if the acceleration at which the universe was expanding was like 10 seconds slower or 10 seconds faster, the universe would either be consumed by itself, or simply they would explode out, right? So all of this, it's so beautiful and it's so systematic and it's so very proportionate. That very fact says that there's something out there that is actually tailoring the entire world and the entire universe.
So what you're
I guess
really
we can say-
arguing is not about life comes from life. You're arguing about the argument from fine tuning. Well, okay. So basically, what you say is that
Yes, exactly.
God is responsible for creating the circumstances which give rise to life and sustain life in this universe. Now,
Yes.
what I ask you is this, right? Suppose that such situations did not exist, okay?
Okay.
Then you would not exist,
No, of course not.
and you would not be conscious enough to process this or hypothesize.
True.
Now, if there are an infinite number of universes, and if there are an infinite number of possibilities that there could be multiple universes with, some would expand 10 seconds faster, they would all have different situations. So you would only possibly exist in the universe which is capable of sustaining intelligent life, which is capable of sustaining intelligent life.
Or we could exist in parallel universes which have
But-
the exact same rules as our universe.
You
The
can
rules
only
of the
exist
current.
in a universe which is capable of sustaining life. Out of all the universes, there might be multiple of those, there might be just be one of those, but you'll exist in a universe which is capable of sustaining life, and you'll be wondering, wow, this is such a miracle because I'm existing in such a universe. That is even assuming that other kinds of universes are possible. Maybe it's
Right.
just that a universe exists out of necessity, and there is just one single kind of universe.
The theory of multiple universes has not been yet proved, right?
It
It's
has not been
considered
proved,
pseudoscience.
but but if you're talking about the universe could have been just this much different or just that much different, so I think maybe what we're talking about is it has gone from beyond just the fine-tuning argument to also to the cosmological argument. I think it was first given by Immanuel Kant. I believe Diva was telling me something about it. Diva, would you care to elaborate?
The first argument about cosmological existence of God was given by Aquinas in Italy in the 11th century. That was the very first person to actually have a very scientific approach compared to his time. So his argument basically had 5 points in which he considered the natural theology of the world for explaining the existence of God, which had stuff like argument of motion, causation, contingency, degrees, and whatnot. So, what argument Sabya was giving right now sounded like the argument of contingency. So, what contingency basically means in philosophy is that you could have not existed, and that couldn't have mattered. So, if life had to exist in any universe, it doesn't matter how the conditions are, it might have existed regardless if it had to exist.
If it was a necessity and not right.
It wouldn't have mattered to the universe as a whole that, okay, Earth exists, there's a kid named Sabya, there's a kid named Malhar. No one gives a fuck.
Yeah. I mean, in the entire, if we calculate the entire life of the universe within 1 year, we don't even appear for 1 second on the calendar on the last day.
So, Aquina's argument basically ended. He assumed that everything had a starting point. So we don't fall into this infinite regress of psychological and physiological bullshit. He assumed that there had to be a starting point. So what infinite regress basically means is everything has a starting point. Or if it doesn't have a starting point, there is a pre-existing form of it, and you keep following that chain of thought, and it never doesn't end. It cannot logically exist because it doesn't start or end. It just exists. So the cosmological arguments always ended with this ki, acha, since this is here, it had to start somewhere, so God started it.
But then there's a obvious problem to this, that who started God then?
Yeah, exactly.
No one said God, we're talking about the world, right? And we already know that the Big Bang started the world. It's proven as well.
Yeah, but then it's not proven that the Big Bang started the world.
There is nothing there is no proof to literally any discussion that we
Okay,
do.
Big Bang did create the universe, right?
No, it's not proven.
That was how
It's an argument, dude. It's not like hardcore proof.
If you're saying
do
that
have a lot
it
of
arose from the
for it.
singularity, then still, you create the question that where did the singularity come from?
Yeah, so we fall into this infinite regress of thoughts again.
Then I ask, where did God come from? And then theists will say that God just exists, No one created God, God just exists. God is beyond time.
I believe in that argument. Honestly, I feel like humans created God for their own personal need.
Yeah, well, so yeah, that is what we're arguing about exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am against that argument. I
So-
feel like humans were hunters and gatherers, and when they started farming, and they started settling at one place, and they needed rules and laws and some kind of regulations to govern themselves, they created the ideology of God. And at that time, when the ideology of God was created, religion was the judge, jury, executioner, everything.
Very sociological perspective on how societies basically function in our current era, which is of fear that if I do something bad will happen.
Yeah, but
If I do something good will happen.
I didn't get that. I'm sorry.
That's like the divine theory again. Everything good and bad stems from the idea of God, because humans need something to fear in order to move and function properly in a society.
That is the most interesting argument because it, more than just arguing about whether or not God exists, it just says that we need God to exist. Because if there is no God, there is only chaos.
And yeah, what I was
Yes.
saying was God also gives validation for those who do good and, guilt for those who don't. And that was the way how things functioned back then, and things still do to an extent.
I think the first ever nihilist to ever, no, the first Russian philosopher, I forgot his name. He was the one who came up with the nihilism theory in the 19 something something.
Was it
I'll give the name
Dostoevsky?
back. Hi, yes, वही ना. And he said कि if there is no God, the human society won't function. That's why nihilism and anarchy is seen as such a bad thing for our society right now. And we are already heading towards anarchy in a way, without like having some sort of control over people, because humans are sadistic and masochistic at the same time, psychologically. So it, without having a person or a thing to fear, everyone will do whatever the fuck they want to do. That means roaming around naked in the streets, making out with, I don't know, cows and dogs, who knows.
Yeah, but
So
if you really look at European society, right, God as a deity that matters hasn't existed there for quite some time, and still, the society might have grown more and more cynical, but you don't see them descending into complete anarchy.
that's in Europe, right? The genuine thinking capacity of a human is encouraged because the societal structure of the area is like that. There is more influence of art
Okay,
and
Keshav,
thinking in
just tell me
general.
the definition of anarchy.
Anarchy would mean that there anarchy is basically democracy taken to the extreme, where every man for himself, and every man has their own voice, but no one is really, there is no order. That would be complete anarchy. Ontological argument is, in my opinion, is the argument which gives the most perspective into about this whole debate. Okay, what the ontological argument? So there are a number of ontological arguments that have been given throughout history. It has been given by Aquinas, also it has been given by Descartes, Spinoza, Kant. All the big philosophers have given them, right? And so they all have a similar structure which goes, and I'll give you one example, and there are some arguments which are way more complex than this, but this is just the general structure. So they say that so it's, it goes point by point, and it's kind of like a rational argument or like a mathematical proof where you have one axiom and then you have another axiom and then you combine them, and you know so the first axiom which they give is that God is a being which has every perfection. Okay, and they say that even a fool would believe this, that God is a being which has every perfection, if the God as a idea of a being. Second, they say that existence is perfection. Okay. Third, they say that God is a being which is greatest, and there is no greater being than God. Fourth, they say that God exists in our conception, and God exists in our imagination. Fifth, so if God exists in our imagination, but there is no greater being than God, then that means that God, a creature who has every perfection and existence is a perfection, would have to exist in reality. And you just see, okay, well, they've taken axioms and they've made the proof, but maybe they've skipped a step here or jumped to something. I mean, how do you get this?
Yeah, I didn't quite get the fifth step. How you got to the fifth step from the fourth one?
He just got high, man. That's it. He found off mushroom somewhere. And he ate it.
I don't believe in ontological arguments for God because for ontological arguments, you have to presume that God already exists.
Exactly, so it's almost like it's
And
begging the question. So the atheist, what he will do is he just reject the first initial idea. That's why this argument is not persuasive. So if you want to convince an atheist like me that okay, God exists and I'm going to prove it to you right now, and I'll be like, yeah, come on, throw me your best shot, and you'll be like giving the ontological argument. It's just like, really, seriously, man, that's what you've got.
So, what really is being argued over here? it's basically the burden of proof, right? So one side says that God does not exist, we'll prove it to you. The other side says God exists and we'll prove it to you. But the thing is that the burden of proof lies with both of them as such. It lies with the God sorry, I can't use that term. ये वाला cut कर देना. The burden of proof that the God does not exist lies with atheist people, while the God proof that the God exists lies with theist people, right? So in the end, we will keep on going in circles when it comes to the proof of God and existence of God as a whole. But I feel that there are different other theories also that actually give a better explanation, a better kind of balance between both the theories of theists and atheists. So
What Sabya says is really interesting here because I I was raised in a school which was very conservative, and it was a school by a certain religious organization who I won't name here. And the thing which I often saw was that when you're having this kind of a debate, generally you just assume something and then you try to refute that assumption. So as we take in mathematical problems, right, we assume something and then we try to refute it, and then we refute the refusal, and so we say that okay, no, but so therefore this thing exists. So basically, if you're a theist, you'll say ki you'll ask the atheist, you come up with some proof and you tell me, and if your proof is good enough, I'll change my standpoint. And then they would come up with some kind of proof, but there is really no kind of conclusive proof, as we've seen from so many different arguments, because there is always some kind of loophole. And so then they'll pick apart that loophole and they'll be like, no, your proof is not good enough, and so they reject that proof. And the atheist will do vice versa, and that's just how it happens. But essentially, if you see it, the what the atheist is really doing is they're trying to look for the best naturalistic explanation for any particular event. And I think Arya was telling me something about this. Arya, you want to elaborate about that?
No, there is actually this theory in logic that the simplest possible explanation is the best possible explanation, which again explains why most of the people believe in God. But whenever we debate about God, I think the question for proof of God is mostly irrelevant, and that's why most people just try to take their beliefs to extreme and always prove themselves that they are right, because again this question is irrelevant to them and to you. For me, what matters is what God represents, and I think what God represents is, at that point, you just cannot have debate. It is what it is.
I agree with you there.
So I think to get the best possible explanation for something, not the easiest one, but the best possible explanation for something, we need to go beyond God. And as I said, I told this to Keshav, I think nihilists are hypocrites and theists are delusional at the end of the day.
Damn. I know, I mean, what hypocrite, the person, anyone who like advertises the fact that they're a nihilist is a hypocrite.
Yes.
Because if nothing matters, then you're actually telling something that matters, which is nothing, and it clashes the entire argument. It's just
No,
bullshit.
if nothing matters, you should just give up suffering. If there is a nihilist, he just shouldn't exist.
Oh, I wish I couldn't exist, man. I've tried that so many times, and it failed miserably.
Nisha is nihilist. I think you said there is new wave of nihilist philosophers.
Yeah,
And I don't think
not
that's
really
true.
nihilism, it's more like I want to do
Existentialism.
something. No, not even existential. I want to be unique, so I will give any excuse to be unique. And that unique concept will lose meaning because everyone's trying to be unique and advertise their uniqueness.
Yeah, often that's what you see with nihilists. So they're just people who are wanna be and they wanna be edgy, and that they
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
And
It's mostly teenagers. Why is it always teenagers? Who can live off their parents? Who can live off their parents' money, and they're like, hey, it's cool, we're nihilists, because we don't
I
need to
can't
really
do that
work to do
either,
anything.
I've got a very fucked up life, damn.
Well, we won't go into depth about Diva's life. Yeah, but Diva, I wanted to ask you about the concept of belief. What is your opinion about that?
So what I feel that sometimes is right, humans in general need something to latch on to their entire existence and their concept of what good and bad could define. And henceforth we came up with this concept of God and belief and trying to live for a reason and finding meaning for whatever we do in life.
Right.
So it's just a societal structure that we formed for ourselves because because we are more accepting of fear than acceptance in general.
We're more accepting of fear than acceptance in general.
Yeah, that's why, see, if you human society was more accepting of the idea of accepting things around them, we would not be having a lot of religious extremism that we are facing right now, or any extremism in that form, because
Ah,
you'll
yes,
be more
yes,
accepting
yes.
the idea around you rather than trying to prove your own point every single time. And that's why this entire thing clashes around, because we are more accepting of an idea of fear around us. If we fear something, only then we would be able to function properly.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. So basically, I was actually even thinking about this, and so I was watching Schindler's List the other day. I was thinking, what can drive a person to this level of cruelty? And then you think about it, it's just that they simply reject the other person and they see the other person as different from themselves. And for humans, if something or someone is different from us, that is enough to be cruel to that other being, you know? So
Exactly.
that is how non-accepting we are. If something is different from us, we reject them. And in religious organization, I've seen this all the time. If you're different from them, so when you're the same as them, there's all this positivity and all this brotherhood. And the moment you're different from them in any way, boom, it reverses on you. And I won't name this, but back in, I think, 2000, the early 2000s, one of my father's close personal friends, he was rumored to be gay, and he was ostracized from the organization just because there were rumors about him being gay. And he was like, I'm not even actually gay, it's just that this rumor has been spread about me. And he was removed from the organization, and his whole income and livelihood depended on the people who were in that organization, because that was the whole contacts that he had, and he was in a business which kind of relied on that. So he lost everything. It
That's the
was
thing.
really,
Humans
really
are
bad.
more accepting of an idea ki if you and I fear the same thing, come on, we are friends, then no problem, it's fine. But if we fear a different thing than me, and I'm not accepting of the idea, you can fuck off. I don't care. I'll kill you.
So that's why
Sounds
we need some kind of belief to kind of hold us steadfast in
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how the society functions, right? Even right now. Even if we all step into, say, absolute anarchy and everyone's a nihilist in quotes, even though there is no technical definition of it because it changes every single time. And
No, but
even then,
I
we'll have
believe that
something to
religion.
fear. It might
I
change,
believe
it
that
might not be
religion
God.
I believe that religion separates people more than it brings people together. Like right now, the amount of extremism we are seeing in our country and other countries around the world, it's crazy, man.
It's not about having people come together or being separated because of religion. It's because of having multiple religion, and every religion just fighting within themselves to prove their superiority.
So the solution to this would only be having one religion.
No, I don't
No,
think so. It's having no religion.
But then there are problems with that.
So like Deepa just said, we need some kind of belief or religion to hold us together. And what Arya said is not having a religion. Wouldn't that counter?
so we don't need religions explicitly to have belief now.
That's also true. Yep. Never mind. Move on. Cut kar do.
And that is kind of a problem with belief.
right. So, if I may interject over here, so if you guys have read the book *Sapiens*, so you might have come across a statement in there that says that humans do better than animals despite being physically less powerful than most of them, just because of our ability to create and believe in myths, and those common myths develop trust and wider cooperation amongst us. So, for example, over here is human rights. Like, they are not natural laws, right? So they are not physical, but they have been found by humans, thus myths, to have a more organized world. So what we know about religion, it's basically a belief, right? It's basically a belief of every single person. Every single person has a different belief, and that has created sects around the world. So religion right now is merely a set of rules that guided individuals throughout their lives. And while the thing that revolves it back over here is that religion started in the same manner just like myths did, and they had a greater impact, and they were not preached as laws made by humans, but as laws given by a higher entity, right? So the all-knowing and the all-seeing, and these laws led up to societies and even countries following a proper hierarchy and a set of rules. So religion basically developed like this common belief system that led to trust and cooperation. And in the past, as we know, like every problem, it was dealt with a religious solution. Ki agar, for example, if someone's daughter is not having children, or someone else's cow is not giving milk, they'll be like, pray to this god, sab kuch theek ho jayega, everything will be okay. But now we know already that science and technology has taken over everything, and we know why droughts and earthquakes and windstorms, they're all scientific phenomena, and they're not the wrath of God anymore. So yeah, so that's the concept that I want to revolve around, that belief and believing in the end. The importance of belief and believing for the society as a whole, it's incredibly important just to make sure that they unite together, because if we don't have a particular set of beliefs, or we don't have particular set of rules that we all comply with, then won't the entire society fall into complete disrepair?
I agree, yes. But I also feel like the rules should not be based on fear and validation. Instead, they should be based on justice and ethics. Although
Yeah,
ethics do
justice and
actually come
ethics,
from the
they
concept
stemmed
of God.
from something now, and that something for like current thing is God. We're just imagine a society where killing people was all okay. They just go out, kill a few people, and come
That
back.
was all okay till
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. In some places, still it is.
Yeah, it is, but like in a wider sense, like pick a first world country, and then people say, "Acha, you can just go kill, fuck, do whatever you want to do. Just
How
come
the
to the
wrong
duty duty
people.
once a month. That's it."
Well, does a belief even hold up if it's not based in anything? So the beliefs that have stood the test of time, they are beliefs in a certain higher entity. If there is no higher entity, will that belief even hold up?
If the mind of the entire world changes, then yeah, possibly.
That
Beliefs
might
don't
happen.
necessarily have to have any logical reasoning per se. It's from our experiences, it's from what we accept to be true, but not what necessarily is true.
Yeah, but we're not talking about individual beliefs. We're talking about a belief that, you know, is existing socially and culturally. It's a common belief which is held by and shared by many. Can this belief subsist without being based in something that is external to the experience of humans?
That's
That's what
what
we're
we were
saying.
talking about, right? God is a necessary belief because we fear the unknown and we need someone above to be in the know.
I mean, God is like if you lose hope in existing in general, and there's nothing to latch on to, you'll just descend into this absolute, you know, frenzy state of mind. You lose your mind in the end because you have nothing to hold on to. You don't have any reason to like go forward in life or do anything for that sake.
Why is it so? Why do we need God to have any sort of meaning in our lives?
Because we've given this entire idea so much bhav since like the you know beginning of societies in general that we are just used to this idea.
I think there is a virtue in, skepticism just as much as there is in belief.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
so basically, what we arrive to right now here is that, if you believe in God, there is a way for you to take meaning, and you have a belief, you have some entity which you can take your life's meaning from, and you
I
can
have
take
one last
morality
question
from.
before we conclude.
And because of this, you have a significant advantage, but there's also disadvantage in the form that as the times change, you just might not keep up to it. Some of your beliefs might be ill-founded, and you might be brainwashed without even knowing it. But again, if you don't believe in God, there are a whole host of complications, and you have a big journey to undertake, and a lot more questions to raise and attempt to answer. It's a whole mega branch of philosophy. But that's what we're here for, and that's what the season 2 of ThinkALoud is for. And this is just the first episode, and we have just begun. So stick with us for the next episodes, and we're gonna explore this whole thing together. ThinkALoud, over and out.